I like Renaissance polyphony a lot, but I've spent a lot more time really listening to Baroque polyphony.
Mhm.
And when I listen to a Bach fugue, I can really hear each voice distinctly.
Mhm.
And I could sing along with the part. When I listen to a lot of Renaissance polyphony, I experience it more like a kind of big wall of sound,
Mm.
and where I can't always follow the individual parts that easily, nor can I necessarily follow the large scale structure of the piece that easily. I'll obviously you can hear little bits of imitation in different places. I can think of 6 or 7 reasons why that might be, other than the possibility that my ear just isn't trained to it. It could be that, by nature, modal polyphony, the lines are less kind of rigorously distinct than in the polyphony of Bach's time or later. It could be for the fact that sometimes there's more voices than 4. I don't know. What do you think about that? Why do I experience those two differently?
Well, I think some of it may just be an acoustical phenomenon. When you think about the kind of spaces that a lot of Renaissance music gets recorded in, again, you have this huge wash of sound in a huge cathedral. Interestingly, when you look at the buildings especially where the Chapel Royal sang, these little private chapels, those have pretty dry acoustics. And especially in the 16th century, every surface in there would have been covered with tapestries. It would have been covered with cloth. The floor would have been carpeted, like that nice wall hanging that you have behind you. Every inch of the place. We have a description of a baptism that went on in one of the royal chapels. Even the baptismal font was lined with cloth, so that just no hard surfaces, because to have everything covered with cloth was a sign of luxury. But that really would have damped the acoustics as well. And it would have taken a lot more clarity, and you would have heard things a lot better. I think also, I certainly don't think it's any sort of lack of discernment in your ears. I think a lot of Renaissance polyphony is designed maybe not to bring out the individual lines quite so sharply. As you say, some of it just has to do with the style of the melodies. A line in a Bach fugue is, even a vocal fugue is going to have a different sort of melodic contour than in a motet by Tallis.
Well, there's kind of an angularity to Bach and to my favorite Baroque music. Zelenka is another composer that I've listened to lately who kind of has that same characteristic that I don't hear so much in Renaissance music.
And I think ultimately these melodic forms in Renaissance music, these types of melodies, are really coming back to chant. Of course, most of the melodies that people sing in Renaissance counterpoint are not chant. The tenors might have a chant melody, or the sopranos might have it. But the composers who composed this stuff were steeped in chant. That's what they sang growing up. That's what they sang every day. That was their sort of basic aesthetic. And it is a more stepwise kind of motion, of less, I suppose, less demonstrative. There's less ego in there. Of course, it's quite possible to sing
the flow of it is different.
It's quite possible to sing a Renaissance polyphonic line with molto ego, but it just doesn't lend itself to that kind of rhetoric so much. There is something chant-like in the best sense of the word about a lot of these melodies that Tallis composed. Not in the sense that they're just a drone, or they're just modal formulas, or they only have a narrow range. None of those things are true. But they come out of this sort of soil, this ground of chant, and they grow up into these varieties. But they're still based in this aesthetic that they got from singing plainsong. They were singing that 6 hours a day from their childhood.